coronavirus pandemic caused the worldwide emissions of carbon dioxide to drop significantly during 2020. Yet already, by December of that year, the International Energy Agency reported that they had soared back to their pre-lockdown levels as a result of the world economies getting back into gear. For the world to meet the emission levels agreed upon in the Paris Climate Agreement, it would have to undertake the equivalent of a coronavirus lockdown every 2 years. It has become clear that for our CO2 emissions to be lowered, we have to consider making sustainable changes in the way we live. And in truth, the awareness of climate concerns has seriously stepped up over the last few years. We have begun thinking more about how much plastic we consume and whether we can choose greener transport from time to time. But now, can we move it a step forward?
Hello, we are Enactus Uniud, a team of students from 8 different courses, and we would like to present to you our very own creative bid to make way for sustainable living.
Cognac will be a technological solution, transforming CO2 into ethanol in a carbon-negative process which does not add, but rather removes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But why ethanol? Ethanol at the moment is almost entirely derived from agriculture. It is primarily used for fuel, but also food, medicine, and cosmetics. The price of ethanol differs significantly between regional markets. It is on average 40% more expensive in Europe than in the United States. The economical importance of ethanol is clear, but its origin in agriculture is more than simply problematic. Depending on practices, the production of ethanol can be the cause of soil erosion, loss of biodiversity, and the release of polluting compounds into the atmosphere. Not to mention it requires arable land and water, which takes away from food production, raising the price of food. Now, this is anything but sustainable, and this is when Cognac comes in. By obtaining ethanol from carbon dioxide, we incur none of those environmental harms. We produce ethanol destined for regional market, and we cut down the demand for bioethanol as well as oil. We estimate that when it reaches production phase, our project will be removing 3.8 kilograms of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere for every kilogram of ethanol produced. This is the same amount of CO2 absorbed in one day by 65 trees.
The key to our project is a two-step chemical process. First, we separate hydrogen from water, then we combine it with CO2.
And how would you acquire CO2 in the first place?
Carbon dioxide could be directly captured from the atmosphere, or more simply, purchased from capture plants. These plants are growing and multiplying as more and more companies are experimenting with CO2. And our hydrogen, by the way, would also be produced in a green way.
For your conversion process, you would require some kind of catalyst.
Yes, that's right. We aim to secure a highly selective catalyst that would convert CO2 into a specific hydrogenated compound, ethanol. The catalyst is the crucial component of our mechanisms. With the University of Udine, we have done in-depth inquiries to find whether this kind of technology was already operative. We have found that existing catalysts fall just short of our requirements, and none of them is directed at ethanol production. Also, we are looking at photocatalysis, a more innovative process.
So you propose to develop a catalyst that would efficiently convert CO2 into ethanol?
That's right. Over the course of the next 2 years, as our research on all fronts is ongoing, we aim to develop an efficient catalyst. Our goal is a 50% efficiency. Assuming that we purchase green hydrogen and CO2, we estimate that the research and development cost will be equal to approximately 300,000 euros. Over time, and that with funding, we will continue our market research, and we will develop more and more efficient catalysts, getting closer and closer to our objective of 50%.
The catalyst would be powered by electricity. Is that a concern for you, and where does the electricity come from?
The electricity we use would come from strictly renewable sources, so the entire process would be green. Governments are investing into these technologies and applying carbon taxes, so we assume the price will lower over time. Also, CO2 capture cost and hydrogen production cost will lower over the next few years. Assume that, and with an efficient catalyst, we assume a production cost of nearly €1.80 per kilogram of ethanol produced.
What do you think is the possible output of cognac.
The ethanol that we produce could find its way in all kinds of cosmetics, but also alcoholic beverages, hence our name, cognac. The companies that have experimented so far with this kind of production have come up with products such as vodka that are pure because no microorganisms were involved during fermentation. We really have the potential to substitute less sustainable production in an entire sector. We find the fuel industry too difficult for our startup phase, so we have decided to focus on beverages and cosmetics.
Finally, how do you project that the ethanol produced by cognac will be commercialized?
We could simply sell our product to the clients in a business-to-business kind of arrangement, or we could engage in co-branding agreements whereby clients selling to the final consumers would place our brand on their product, so the consumers know the product comes from strictly green and carbon negative sources.
When we studied the interest of consumers for sustainable ethanol, we first took on the many research papers that have recently shown how retailers are seeing an across-the-board increase in the interest for sustainable goods, and how they are expecting to sell more in the immediate future. Especially encouraging for our own research was the unanimity of such retailers regarding the point of sourcing. In fact, they believe that sustainable sourcing is becoming more and more important for their customers. We also noticed how the younger generations are found to be exceptionally interested in the sustainability of the products they buy. This we also confirmed through our own survey on the key demographic here in Friuli. Through a choice experiment on over 600 students, we have found empirical evidence of the willingness to sustain a premium pricing on sustainable cosmetics. This insight could be deepened in the future, leading to precise estimates and involving the wider public. Cognac fits perfectly within the Italian government definition of an innovative startup and could therefore benefit from a whole host of legal and financial advantages. These include tax reductions for investors, subsidized financing under the Smart and Start program, simplified work regulations, and much else besides. Cognac promotes UN Global Goals 9, 12 and 13, advancing innovation and responsible industry while setting an example for combating climate change.
And that is how Enactus Uniud has imagined a step forward in sustainable living. Now we ask you to join us.